Kasajo. I'm alongside my buddy Pierce Allen, and we're just gonna be yapping today about everything that's going on recently in NFL. You know, we got the combine going on right now. A bunch of guys trying to show their worth to all the NFL teams. Got a lot of news that's going around. So let's get straight into it. All right, so we're gonna talk a tiny bit about the combine today. We're gonna save most of it for next week when Dylan's back with us. RIP Dillon for this week.
Yeah.
But we did want to talk about one specific player. So both me and Pierce are A&M fans. I think Pierce is a bigger A&M fan than I am by a good margin, but I
Yeah.
consider myself an Aggie as well. But Shamar Stewart at the combine yesterday went absolutely bananas. Um, I think his RAS score, his raw athletic score, ended up being,
I think it was a 10.
I think it was a 10. I think it was the best out of defensive ends in history. Third best in terms of total everyone since they started tracking their stuff. I don't know when they started, but yeah, I mean, the guy's a beast. I mean, he ran 4.59 40 on a 10 point or a 1.58 10 yard split, 40 inch vertical jump, and a 10 foot 11 inch broad jump, which I think was
I
that
think
a
that was
record
second. I think
or
it was record
second
for. I think it was the
for
record.
DNs.
I think it was first of all the DNs, and his 4.59 time was fastest among defensive linemen greater than 260 pounds.
Wow. Yeah. So I mean, he's cooking. I mean, you probably know a lot about him than I do, so I'll let you give your take on everything he's done and what he's doing.
Dude, I mean, wow. That's really what I want to say right now because that is insane. Like I knew he was a freak of nature coming into high school. I've been watching the film. I mean, you saw the measurables speak for itself. When he came out of high school, Texas A&M, he was 6'5", 235, 240. You know, big, long, rangy guy. Really didn't fill out much until he got to College Station, and you saw him add on good weight, lose the bad weight, but put on the right weight. And I think it all came to a point in this year. Um, working with Tommy Moffitt, the strength and conditioning coach here at Texas A&M, I think he set him up good for the long term in terms of just explosiveness. He was already super explosive his freshman year. He got some playing time here and there his freshman year, and he was dynamite. Um, but I really realized that he was like, okay, this guy's going to be on people's boards when it was against I was against Arkansas the last time they played in AT&T this past year. Uh, there was a play where Taylor Green, Arkansas's starting QB, and their running back were going to mesh for like a read option, and Taylor's job was to read the end. Um, Except that end was Shamar Stewart, and he ran like I'm going to say it, a bat out of that, um, and blew the play up. I'm sitting there going, as a fan, I'm screaming, I'm hooting and hollering. But when I rewatched the tape even more, I'm going, NFL teams better not pass this up because he's raw, he's talented, he's violent, and that became even more clear. Dillon had a front row seat at the Senior Bowl. Although he was a junior, he got the invite and he tore it up. And he even said himself after, "You don't want to miss this. I'd pick me if I was a GM. I'd pick me because you don't want to miss out on this." He's a hardworking kid. Seems like a good kid too. Like well spoken as well. Because if I can remember back to his uh, his commitment back in 2021, I believe. Oh no, it was the fall of 2021 or the Christmas of 21. He he had his Final Four. I know the big one though. It was between Miami and Texas A&M on where he was going to go for college. A kid from the Miami area, you would think, oh, he's destined to go play for the U. Um, he sat there, held the hat for Miami, and said, "This has always been home to me. I've always wanted to play for the University of Miami, but it's time for me to build my own legacy." And that's when he picked A&M. I'm not trying to say that to just boost up on how good A&M is. He was one of the few that actually stayed out of that top class in 22. He was one of the few that stayed and gutted it out with two very bad years of Jimbo Fisher and a one really highlighted year with Mike Elko. But yeah, I mean, to know it was even crazier, just the day of the combine, I was at work, but I kept every chance I got, I kept checking my phone and seeing what they're talking about. He weighed in at 267 when normally he'd be playing around 285.
That is crazy.
That was his in-game weight to 3 4 months 5 months ago in late November against Texas. He was weighing in at 285, 287. He walked in, weighed in 20 pounds lighter, and jumped out of the building. I've never seen a man at 6'5" get 40 inches off the ground. Um,
For real.
and seeing a dude jump 10, almost 11 feet as well blows me away. And then just the 4.59 speed. Like I'd say I saw that live too. I saw him pick up a fumble and take it to the house. So I was like, okay, he's fast. He's fast enough to make it.
Mhm.
Um, I know he's probably already said it multiple times in interviews and stuff, but like, dude, you don't want to. If you're a team in the top 10, if you don't know if you have your guy there, like if you're saying we have the guy that we want, but if he's not there, you need to take a look at this kid, this 6'5", 267 pound defensive end, and
Yep.
take a long, hard look about him because he's a hard worker. He's going to scratch. He's going to claw. He's going to fight to earn his in the
Mhm.
NFL.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, my hope for him is that he goes to a place where he can truly develop instead of
Mm-hmm.
having to come out the gate and be a starter for a team that's maybe lacking at the edge position. Because I mean, his biggest knock right now is that he doesn't have the production that you'd expect from a
Yeah.
guy with these measurables and his talent. Um, and so some of it is that he needs to add a little bit to his package that he has in terms of his skill moves and power moves and things like that. Try to become a little more nuanced in his movements. And I think that's very teachable. That's not something that you have to either have or be born with or whatever. That's something that's very teachable. And so I think if he can end up in a position where he doesn't immediately have to impact on every down, he can just be a plug and play type of guy his rookie year and really have the opportunity to learn and grow. I really think there's a chance that he can be a top edge in this league.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, you see those comparisons on the combine all the time. Whenever someone does really well, they always compare him to um, like the big names in the league. So they were already comparing Shamar Stewart to like Miles Garrett in terms of measurables and combine numbers and things like that. And
They were.
it's very similar. Shamar probably outperformed him in some categories as well. So um, I think I think if he ends up in Cleveland, I think that could turn out really well for him. We're going to talk about Miles Garrett in a little bit, but um, it'll be nice to if both of them were there. But if Miles Garrett does end up moving this offseason, Shamar Stewart might be a really solid option to replace him. But um, I don't think he's going to be the best that he can be if he needs a position that's like that. So um, as a fan of him, I'm really hoping he gets into a position where because I feel like this kind of happens with a lot of A&M talent. Like there's a lot of guys that are really hyped up to be first round talents, and then they get to the league
Mm-hmm.
and no one really talks about them. Um, I'm trying to like we're talking about Kenyon Green beforehand, but he was really hyped up before the draft, and he's been decent. I don't he had like he tore his ACL or something his rookie year, so he missed the majority of his rookie year. He was hurt his rookie year, but he's been a decent option for the Texans. Probably hasn't been as great as people hoped he would be for the pick he went at. Um, I remember Jalen Watermeyer before the combine was supposed to be a
Goodness.
stud,
Hmm.
and then after he just flubbed at the combine, and then he's gone now. Um, I just I'm blanking on names, but I feel like there's just been times where these A&M they're talented athletes, but I feel like these are guys that might have to be placed in the right situation to really reach their potential. So I really just hope that Shamar, I think he's a guy that can kind of break that and be a guy that can perform in any situation. But I really hope he goes to a situation where he does um, get the best um, staff and trainers and whether other players that he can learn from around him, so he can really unlock the potential that he has. Um, as a 21-year-old player with a ton of time to spend in the league.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, dude. Like, cause he's yeah, he's raw. Like you want to be able to tame, control and tame that, and utilize it to the best of your ability. But yeah, dude, just you talked about putting him in the right spot. Uh, I think that's key for every draft prospect. It could be
That's
different for
true.
some. It could be different for some, where a guy can just show up to any team and change the culture immediately. But then again, you're like a one of one talent if in that case. But a guy like Shamar Stewart, I agree with you. I feel like teams are teams that would think like, okay, he may or may not fit our culture. I think that goes to uh, just the raw talent aspect. You want to be able to, you know, develop him the right way. And I mean, a couple teams that come to my mind that you want to surround him around a lot of veterans too. Like you don't want to just put him with a bunch of young talent, a young team, and say, here you go, start, go produce. Like one defensive end that came to my mind that I felt like would have done a lot better was a couple years ago. It was Josh Allen out of Kentucky.
Hmm.
Super raw talent, explosive, has a really good year at Kentucky, goes pro, but he's in Jacksonville where there's not that much talent. Like there's not that much veteran presence on the defensive line. They basically just threw him
He's
out
been
there
pretty
and
good
said,
too. Still,
yeah, like he's still pretty good, but it's like it took him a little bit to get going and stuff like that to
hmm
be that a tenacious and a perennial threat to get you to you know sack the quarterback, which is what a lot of these kids uh, are going to be trying to do in the future. Is like they're being paid to. We need you to stop them from scoring and go get the quarterback when you can.
yeah.
But
One name that also
other than,
just came to mind for me about like the A&M like talent pool is DeMarvin Leal.
oh yes,
I
he
don't.
disappeared.
Yeah, I think he's on the Steelers right now.
He
I
probably still is, but he's not living up to the hype and the talent that
yeah.
he. I mean, I was shocked that he wasn't a day two, but he was a day three draft pick. I was like, okay, cool,
hmm
he's a day three draft pick. But that also goes, I think, along with just the coaching that he was around. I
Yeah.
know, like Jimbo Fisher was able to recruit at an elite level, but he was not good at developing said talent.
Yeah.
Um, Now, Mike Elko, on the other hand,
The defensive
um,
mastermind, bro.
he is a mastermind. Like before Elko left, you had guys like DeMarvin Leal, a Donovan Wilson, diamond in the rough coming out of A&M, 6th round draft pick picked up by Dallas, and he's one of the more tenured guys that's on the roster right
hmm
now. Shoot, who else? Justin Matabike.
Yeah.
Just got paid. He's
All
one of the
pro.
highest paid. Yeah, all pro. Just got paid last year, and he's tearing it up. DeMarvin Leal, yes, he was under Mike Elko's tutelage, but I feel like with him leaving, with Elko leaving early, and then of course Leal not staying another year, kind of hurt his draft stock.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, with guys like Adam Cushing or Brian Cushing, the new offensive line and defensive line coaches, and then Elko in general, you're going to see more guys like a Shamar Stewart
Uh-huh.
turning
I
a
didn't
lot
know
of
Brian
eyes.
Cushing was at A&M.
He's the offensive line coach. I don't know if that's the right.
Interesting.
I think
The
that's him.
Brian Cushing, the same one that used to be the Texans linebacker.
No, not that Brian Cushing. That's the
Oh,
sort of line coach. Give me just a minute. I think it's a different Cushing. It's Adam Cushing. I'm so sorry,
I
not
see.
Brian. Brian
Oh,
Cushing
you
does
get
not
you
teach
get.
linemen. Uh, but Adam Cushing, he coached the offensive line the 2 years that Elko was at Duke, and they just
Mhm.
recently had a first round draft pick last year come out of
Yeah,
Duke.
Graham Barton.
Yeah, Graham Barton. So, and he coached offensive line at Northwestern for 10 years, and Northwestern has been known to have some dogs to come out of the
Uh huh.
offensive. Rayshon
Excellent.
Slater is the latest that's come to me in
Yep.
terms of offensive line. So sooner than later, NFL teams are going to look at A&M and go, man, they can produce some defensive line and offensive linemen, but that just revolves around how they can produce and how they can production. But other than that, I mean, Miles going back to Miles Garrett, or not Miles Garrett, Shamar Stewart, just a freak of nature, and as what Pat McAfee said in his podcast this morning, he just made himself a lot of money.
Yep.
He's a physical specimen, and he just made himself a lot of money.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's move on to our next little segment here. About maybe a few days ago now, the NFL Players Association released their report cards for each organization in the league. So we're just going to kind of look through this, just highlight a couple of things, both the good and the bad of some of these teams here. Um, First of all, overall, just I want to point out the Miami Dolphins A's across the board. So the categories are treatment of families, food slash dining area, nutritionist slash dietitian, a locker room, training staff, weight room, strength coaches, team travel, head coach, and ownership. And they have A's across the board. They don't even have an A minus from what I'm
No, they
looking at,
don't. They don't.
which is
They have one A minus. It's just treatment of families. But then again, an A is an A. I would
A's
say.
and A. Yeah. So I mean, that's props to them. Props to the Dolphins. I think they're
Mhm.
first over all the teams. Their lowest ranking overall, but when I look at their breakdown, they're sixth in terms of head coach rankings, which is they're saying 98% of Dolphins players feel like Mike McDaniel is efficient with their time. Players feel that Mike McDaniel is highly receptive to locker room feedback to on the team's needs. So Dolphins are building something organization wise that is really nice, which I feel like we've kind of felt. I think the Dolphins has always seemed like they're a decent organization. I think the only blemish recently was their um, what is it called, tampering. Whenever
Mhm.
they like lost a
Yeah.
pick from tampering with Brady a few years back. That's
Yeah.
the only thing I could
Mhm.
think of. But um,
But yeah.
overall, I just building the roster and they can be pretty good.
Mhm.
Um, on the other hand, I think the worst team out of all of these teams, organization wise, was the Arizona Cardinals. Um, yep, 32nd out of 32nd, 29th in treatment of families, 30th in food and dining area. They're okay in
Yikes.
nutrition, dietitian, last in terms of locker room, last in terms of training staff. Um, Head coach is eighth in the league, though, which is, I think, pretty interesting. Um, Jonathan Gannon is a guy that probably nobody talks about, honestly. Um, but he might be a guy that seems like he works well with the team. So um, obviously, a lot of room for improvement with the rest of the organization. They're a D minus in terms of ownership, which is third to last out of all teams. And obviously, the locker room and training room are not great at all. But I guess room for improvement for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's tough to be in this league, but then also when you're a team that is, you know, as I would like to say, you're out in the middle of the desert. Not a lot of people, I would say, you know, would want to play, would want to play there. But also, if you're not showing it, you're not showing the results on the field either. As a,
Uh-huh.
you're a team that's relying on your quarterback to, and don't get me wrong, they've got some good pieces around there, but I just feel like, yeah, I mean, you're just looking at the Cardinals 31st in locker room. You said it, 30, and your ownership. Your ownership's terrible. Like you're 30th in terms of ownership in the NFL. Your coach is an A minus, which is 15th, which is kind of crazy. You're in the top 15 in the league in terms of all the 32 teams. You're about halfway there.
Uh-huh.
You're just better than 50, than being right in the dead middle. But yeah, I mean, ugh, woof. Uh, yeah. Uh, then there's you've got your Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, although they just fresh off of a getting blown out in the Super Bowl, they're still, well, actually they're ranked the 31st. They're ranked 31st in terms of NFL teams, which makes zero sense to me. I don't understand what
Crazy.
they're, because, well, then it makes sense. Like if your nutrition and your locker room are 31st and 28th respectively in the league, your training staff is the worst in the league. I and the one thing that you've got going for you is your head coach being the best in the game. Like that's the one thing that's higher than a C plus. Their strength and weight room is a C plus. Other than that, it's the head coach. Everything other than
Yeah,
that is literally like bottom of the league. Strength coaches
it's
and team
crazy.
travel are 27th each, 23rd in the weight room, 31st in training room, 28th in the locker room, 31st in nutrition, dietitian. Goodness, how this team won two championships in a row? How the heck did they do that? But then again, you can just say it's like, hey, we're trying to win. We're trying to win as many championships as we can right now. So
Yep.
that could be all. That could be it.
It's interesting how some of this like pans out in terms of like some of them make sense in terms of just how the team is and team success wise, and others just don't really make sense at all. Like it's kind of interesting to see. I don't know if it is necessarily a reflection of what matters to a team's success. Like you can say, um, let me look at this because you can say like the Raiders honestly have like A's and B's across the board, and they're obviously one of the worst teams in the league.
It could be.
So I mean
It
they
could
have
be.
an A in ownership with Mark Davis. So
Yeah, it could be
it's
based off of just where they're located and stuff like that. It could be like,
mhm,
based off of location and stuff like that. Because I've heard, in terms of, Kansas City, best team in the league, but there have been a lot of talks about them moving out of Kansas City and
yeah,
moving
that's true.
into Kansas itself,
Kansas, yeah,
moving into the state of Kansas, moving further inward.
yep,
Um, there were even rumbles about Kansas City moving to Dallas or to Texas. Like,
really
yeah, like those were
interesting.
rumbles, thank goodness. But like, uh, just the thought of a team, having two teams in Texas as big as the Chiefs and the Cowboys. At least one of them would actually be winning championships, and the other one wouldn't be fiddling their thumbs as a owner and GM.
Yeah, one thing I want to point out is the head coaching rankings. I guess the grades. Only three. So the worst letter grade was a C for these, which is in reality mediocre. Um, but the three teams that got a C were the Browns, the Jaguars, and the Bears. And so the Jaguars and the Bears ended up firing. So it's Peterson and Eberflus that we got to see.
Hmm.
Stefanski, I found kind of interesting that he got to see in terms of just kind of how, I mean, obviously the Browns haven't been good, but I don't think that's like, I feel like on this podcast we've given Stefanski like solid praise over the past few years. It's just like how he's kind of willed these mediocre Browns rosters to playoffs where they did, I mean, Joe Flacco got to the playoffs. Um, they were able to win some hard fought games this past season as well, you know. So I find it interesting. Let me read like the little breakdown here. It says 67% of Browns players feel their head coach Kevin Stefanski is efficient with their time, a rank of 29th out of 32. The players feel like that Stefanski is moderately receptive to locker room feedback on the team's needs, ranking him 30th out of 32 head coaches in the league. So I think ranking wise, it's just more of, I mean, they're just like, oh, he's okay. And then kind of with how everything else, how every other team talked about their head coach, it just ended up being that okay was not that great in terms of other head coaches in the league. Because you got, let's see here, like literally every coach is above. I mean, I guess it's more of a scale of if they're well liked in the locker room more than how good of a coach they are in a sense. Um, because by the rankings here, it said Dan Campbell or not Dan Campbell, Dan Quinn is number one, followed by Raheem Morris, Kevin Stefanski, Andy Reid, McDaniel's, Dan Campbell,
In
Mike
terms of
Tomlin.
likability, in terms of,
I think that's what this grade is more of, in the head coach grade.
mhm.
It's more of a likability, how well they understand the locker room, how the players are receptive to the head coach, more than how successful, how smart, that type of thing.
Yeah, because I mean, you brought up a big name personally. If I'm any player in this league, um, Dan Quinn, or not Dan Quinn, Dan Campbell, Dan Quinn or
Yep.
Dan Campbell are high on my list of coaches that I would want to play for because, dude, I'd
Uh-huh.
run through a freaking wall for
Yep.
Dan Campbell. Because if I have a guy that's, you know, going for it on 4th and 4 in the first quarter on my own on their own 40,
Yeah.
like, yes, there are plus and minuses to that, as we saw, the Washington Commanders, you know, beat them. But
Mm.
Dan Campbell's a coach that he's not gonna let you know the 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 mold of what you know a coach should look like. He's gonna be different. He's gonna change. He's gonna step out of that mold of just like, okay, you'll periodically go for it on 4th and down, and you'll punt here and there. But like, no, he's like, dude, I'm gonna throw in the backyard football trick plays. I'm gonna run a double reverse and then chuck it downfield. Now,
Yep.
don't get me wrong, that's with Ben Johnson, who is now the head coach at Chicago. Uh, but I'm excited. I feel like with these rankings, yes, it shows this past year, but I'm looking forward to seeing what this is going to like at this time next year because
That's true.
there's a lot of new things. Like the
Good
Cowboys,
point.
they have a new head coach. They have, they got Schottenheimer. The Bears, like I brought up, the Bears have Ben Johnson. Who the Jags end up picking up as a head coach?
Liam Cohen, the Bucks OC.
Right, right, right. And then you have uh, Kellen Moore is the new head coach for the Saints.
Saints. Yep.
Uh, and there are a lot of new coaches
Aaron Glenn to the
stepping.
Jets.
That I'm excited for. Like personally, I'm excited to see a guy like Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson how they can step up as a head coach instead of an offense, instead of their respective offensive
Coordinator.
defense and
Yeah.
DC coordinator areas. I feel like they can lead a locker room. Ben Johnson, he's a gutsy play caller, and maybe he'll bite the bullet and take a loss here and there, but I think he can be a terrific head coach for a young Caleb Daniels and or Caleb Williams and a team like Chicago. I'm
Yeah,
tripping over all my words this afternoon.
that's how it be sometimes.
And Aaron Glenn, just a defensive-minded, gritty type of coach. I feel like him in New York
Yeah,
is perfect for just not just for the team, the fan base is going to fall in love with him. I think for just how gritty and you know blue collar he wants his team to be. It's like we're going to
yep,
get down, we're going to put our nose down, and we're going to work. It's not going to be given to
yeah.
us. It's going to be handed to us. We're going to take it.
Yeah. Speaking of the Jets, Woody Johnson, owner of the Jets, was ranked the worst owner out of all teams in the NFL.
Yikes.
Only one to have a letter grade of an F. Um, they said Woody owner Woody Johnson's average rating for perceived willingness to invest in the facilities is a 5.58 out of 10 from Jets players, ranking of 32nd out of 32 owners in the league. The players feel that Johnson does not contribute a positive team culture, rank of 32 out of 32. The players feel that Johnson is somewhat committed to building a competitive team, a rank of 31 out of 32. So they do not like him at all,
No,
is what I'm hearing.
and
And
that's
then
yeah.
because the next lowest is what's his name, Tepper for the Panthers, and he was a D minus. There's a few D's, C's, and so on and so forth. But it's clear that the Jets have the worst ownership um, in the league, according to
Mhm.
the players. But yeah, a ton of really interesting stuff. One other thing to point out in terms of the more uh, not the non-football aspect of it, the treatment of families and the food. Um, Tops were the Vikings in treatment of family at an A plus. The bottom was the Bengals at an F minus.
Good
That's
lord.
the F minus is crazy. What is? I need to read this. Hold
I mean, it makes
on.
sense when your star quarterback got robbed, but
That's a good point. The
I've,
Bengals are one of only three teams that do not offer daycares during home games, and one of only 10 teams that do not offer a family room during home games. The Bengals are the only team in the NFL that fail to offer one of those two benefits. Players rate the Players rate the post game family area 4.69 out of 10, ranking them last. Players feel that the team rarely organizes family events. The Bengals players feel there is little to no effort put forth when it comes to the organization's efforts to support their families. One player describes the treatment of families as almost disrespectful. That is pretty crazy.
hmm,
The Bengals are also last in food and dining area and nutritionist and dietitian.
yeah, that's rough. I mean,
So that's
you wonder why Jamar Chase is sitting there, weighing in all of his options. I know
yeah,
he wants to play
Higgins.
with his. I know and Higgins is trying his best to get the heck out of there. But like Jamar Chase, he wants to play with his boy Joe. Joe's locked in long term, but it also looks like ownership has already made it clear for Cincinnati that they're going to try to make him the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL.
Yep.
So I think we're looking at north of what 30 million a year, 40 million. Like we could
Maybe
definitely
he's gonna get more than Justin.
yeah
Justin's at 35, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah because they I know CeeDee Lamb was put at like 33 or 32 million a year when he got
Uh-huh.
signed. But yeah, that's crazy. Like you don't
It's
treat
kind of
your
crazy, yeah.
like you pay your players to go try to win games for you, and you don't pay them. You don't repay them by having you know things for their families. Like
Exactly.
these guys are
Because
doing it
they're
for their families, stuff like that.
they're bottoms in the league of both treatment of families and dining room and like all that food type stuff. They're third in locker room, sixth in training room, fourth in training staff. So like they're very polarizing in terms of different aspects of their organization. So it seems like it's clear that they've kind of put an emphasis on one thing more than another. Um, Locker room, training staff, weight room, if I'm not, or locker room, training staff. all within the top 8 in the league for those categories. So top 6 even. Um, so it seems like they've really invested in one area and completely neglected another. So just kind of an interesting viewpoint on how they run their organization there.
Yeah,
Um, yeah.
I have a little bit of a bone to pick now that I'm seeing all these ratings. Yes, I'm gonna hop on my Cowboys outrage, but Cowboys, they were ranked 30th in terms of training staff. Only 62% of players feel like they receive enough one-on-one treatment, which is 30th overall in the league. And the players feel that the training staff only slightly contributes to their success, which is another 30th overall. Weight room is fifth. Well, they give it an A, which is fifth in the league, but the players feel that they have high quality equipment in their weight room, which is sixth overall. The players feel that they have more than enough space in their weight room, which is another sixth overall. But the thing that disturbs me the most, or that is like, I wish Jerry Jones was on this call and I'd ring a bell of like, hey, look at ownership, buddy. You're the richest team in sports history, and yet you're ranked 19th out of all the owners. It says club owner Jerry Jones receives a rating of 8.6 out of 10, which isn't terrible, but from Cowboys players when considering his willingness to invest in the facilities. Like investing in I don't know, team travel, which is 22nd. You're the richest team in football, and you're one of 7 teams that requires some of your players to room with another player. Like, that sounds weird, but like personal space during flights, 72% of them feel they're comfortable, but yeah, but like
The other 30.
you're 30th. Like,
Yeah.
come on. You pay your players, you better treat them right. And then your training staff. It's like, what the heck, dude? Like, invest in a training room, invest in a training staff, and you're willing to show off. Hey, look at the star in Frisco. Look at all this stuff. Look at our locker rooms. Look at this. I'm like, okay, cool.
I think it's kind of
Show
funny
them.
because
Right.
the Packers who don't have an owner, or the owners, the people, the shareholders, they're 11th in the league in ownership, which is higher
Hmm.
than
Yeah,
the
I know.
richest man in football. So
Hmm. I should tell
a
you
little
all you
goofy.
need to. You should know that to tell you all you need to know about Jerry Jones and what he stands in terms of uh, winning and losing football games.
Yeah.
I tried
Let's
to. Just want to say
no go
one more
finish up.
thing.
Yeah, go
Trust me,
for it.
one more
Go for
thing.
it.
Uh, this is why I tried so hard to deny it as a Cowboy fan from like age 16 or 15 to 21 or 20 for that 4 to 5 year length. Well, actually, I would say since I started watching Cowboy football, period, to 2 3 years ago, I kept telling myself, Jerry wants to win. It's just a matter of when. And now that I'm seeing it, it's like the only thing that dude cares about. And I heard it from my grandfather. You guys can, hey, you know where my Twitter is. You can DM me and you can tell me I just want to bash on Jerry Jones. A lot of y'all would agree with me. The dude does not care about winning right now. He cares about filling that $2.4 billion stadium with enough Cowboy fans to where he can say, we can win 6 games. I don't care. I'm making millions and millions of dollars every time y'all redeem your season ticket passes. He didn't care about a Super Bowl anymore.
It's a
It's
business.
like, yeah, I'll throw 240 million at Dak for the next 4 years, but we ain't gonna win anything because guess what? Who else is getting paid? And the day Jerry Jones made a mistake, the biggest mistake, and it's haunting him till this day, was running Jimmy Johnson out of town. When he ran him out of town Dallas went from this to in a heartbeat.
Yep.
After winning that championship with Barry Switzer, they never saw the playoff again until you know
Until
2012.
Brian Schottenheimer. Until Brian Schottenheimer.
Don't do that. Don't don't give me hope. Don't give me hope.
uh, all right.
Uh,
Let's move on to some rumors. Before Pierce combusts from thinking about Jerry Jones too much.
yep.
um, so let's talk about some trade stuff that's been moving around. Some player potential movement. The first is um, a guy that probably hasn't been talked about a whole lot, but DK Metcalf has had some rumors swirling a little bit. I saw a couple earlier in the offseason where it was, I don't know if it was rumors or more just hopeful fans, but um, potentially moving to the Chargers. Um, and a fit there with Justin Herbert, which in theory doesn't sound bad at all. And I think I think it was earlier today, early this morning, where uh, there are reports saying that the Packers offered the Seahawks a high pick and one of the wide receivers on the Packers roster in return for DK Metcalf. And then there was a report shortly after that saying that the Seahawks would want the Packers' first round pick, the 23rd pick, and either wide receiver Romeo Dobbs or uh, Dontavian Wicks as one of the
Not
receivers
Christian
they'd want.
Watkins. That's surprising.
Well, Christian Watson is likely out for the
That's
entire
true.
season because he tore his
True.
ACL like near the end of the year.
True.
Um, so that's probably why they're not leaning on him. Romeo, I think, is on a contract year, and Wicks will be on a contract year next year, not this upcoming season, but the next one. Um, and honestly, as a Packers fan, DK sounds amazing. Um, it really gives us that kind of bona fide number one guy. Um, if I had it, I don't want to give up a first one. I don't think a first is. If I'm giving up a player, I don't think a first is really where I want to go. Um, I'm thinking more of a three or a four um, for pick compensation. Because if Miles Garrett is getting two picks, two firsts as kind of his asking price, then I don't think Metcalf is really worth one. If we're kind of comparing, it's a little apples to bananas, um,
I mean,
but I think Metcalf, I think a first round pick in addition to a player, especially, is a little rich for Metcalf. And also, I
yeah.
really do like the receivers that the Packers have. I know that no one is really like a needle like Reed. Reed has potential to be a needle mover for the Packers.
Mhm.
Um, the other guys I think are ceiling wide receiver twos. But I really just as a fan favorite, I really like Romeo Dobbs and what he's done for the Packers in his short time. I think he's been probably the most reliable receiver out of him, Watson, and Reed, um, especially the past two seasons. Great hand, probably the best hands out of that group. Um, great jump ball catchability, contested catchability. So I do like him. I would like him to be a part of this roster longer term. Um, but DK Metcalf is pretty hard to pass up on as well. But just rumors for now. There's likely other teams in the mix. I think there's a lot of teams, especially if Metcalf's being shopped around with um, JSN on the come up. Lockett's still doing his thing. If they want to invest more in JSN rather than DK Metcalf in the future, I think DK Metcalf will for sure be moved around sometime soon.
Yeah, I mean, a Green Bay pickup of DK Metcalf would take them another level in terms of wide receiver, because you hit the nail on the head. Just Reed can possibly be a needle mover for that team, uh, and of course Christian Watkins being out for you know the foreseeable future because of his ACL
Mm-hmm.
tear. And you brought up he could just be worth a first round draft pick, and you could maybe, I mean, yes, Seattle wants a receiver in return, but you can then look. You can, if I'm Seattle, you can trade him away for their first round pick, which is I think higher than theirs, right? Or is it lower?
Packers at 23. I know. I think Seahawks are probably a pick or two higher.
Yeah, like so you if you just give away DK for a pick, you draft possibly his replacement, and you can possibly build on top of that and get a contingency plan of drafting another receiver like a later in the draft, a Luther Burden, a and I'm not saying McMillan was going to drop that far, but he could drop far.
Yeah.
You know,
Seahawks have the 18th pick. Packers have the 23rd.
yeah, you see what I'm talking about? Like, so you trade DK away and get a first round in return. You draft at 18 and 26. 18, you could possibly get a Luther Burden, and then you can stockpile on your defensive line and make it better in the 28th or the 26th pick. Uh, Another rumor that has been circling around. I mean, just the Cooper Cup has been, it's been talking about since I'd say since the Rams season ended. They had already made it clear that they're looking on shipping Cooper Cup, just because of how much he's making. I think he's what in the 30s, the 30 millions
Let's check.
for.
12.5 plus roster bonus of 7.5 or so. So
Yeah,
20 mil.
he's in the 20 million. Which, by the way, when he signed, that was the
Cap
like
hit
his cap hit for
is
this
basically 30
year
mil.
is $29.78 million, which is insane. Like he signed a 3 year, $80 million contract. Thus, that was an extension in 2022. It was going to go from that season to the end of next year. But since, you know, actually, no, that contract extension started in,
2020.
yeah, 24. After the 23 season, it was going to go from 23 to 24 to 26, and he was going to be an unrestricted free agent in 27. But by the looks of it, they're not willing to wait that much longer because it's a cap hit of 29 million after this year, 29.78 million next year, and then 27.3 million the year after that before he hits free agency at 34 years old. Um, and I don't know what they're trying to get from it. It looks like, by the looks of it, it's they're from what I'm hearing, some teams are just saying like they're really just trying to dump salary at this point.
Yeah,
The Rams are. I could
it's
see
gonna
like
be
a
similar to the
multi
Amari Cooper trade. I think. Um,
Cowboys getting a fifth rounder for him, something like that. You could see
yeah,
a day three, day two draft pick be could head to uh, because it just hold on. Is
because he
this
and I think the Rams will kind of listen to him in terms of teams he might would want to go to. Um, so I'm checking. He'll probably want to go to a contender. He's all getting older. Probably wants to compete
hmm
for his last couple of
yeah.
years. Um, so it's gonna probably be a team like um, I don't know why the Texans come to mind. The Texans would be interesting. I don't know how long they is Tank Dell's probably gonna miss a little bit of the beginning of the season. Um, I don't know about Diggs though. I don't remember what his injury was.
Diggs,
Um,
Stephon
yeah,
Diggs, ACL.
ACL. So he might
Yeah,
miss, or he'll be back
it was
close to
it
the
was
end of the
earlier in the
season.
season. It was
Yeah,
earlier in the season when he tore his ACL. There were, I mean, I saw an edit by I think it was the 33rd team, like a third and third team, like the third and third team.
yeah.
Um, they were giving projections on where some of these wide receivers would go. The one that really opened my eyes was uh, a team like the Chargers jumping in and getting a Stephon Diggs. Uh, the Patriots are. I And I feel like I'm wholeheartedly. I don't want to put like a stamp of, or I want to pull a Charles Barkley and say guarantee, but it seems like it's highly likely that the Patriots are going to throw a bag at T. Higgins to be their number one
Higgins, yeah,
receiver this next year because he took a pay cut to stay last year in Cincinnati.
yeah. They're not giving him the
Which
tag this year. I don't think.
he took the tag last year. They're not going. He's not going to take it again. He wants to get paid, and he's going to go wherever the money is. You know, wherever the money talks. You know.
Yeah, the Patriots will be interesting just as a team in general next season in terms of how competitive they'll be because I don't know. They have. You're hoping Drake May takes a jump, and these wide receivers that they're going to go for is really just about how good do they think Drake May is going to be, um,
Hmm.
and
Absolutely.
then Rabel can probably turn the team around pretty well. Um, but I mean, still, even adding a couple wide receivers would obviously do wonders for their offense. Stevenson, I really like as a running back. They probably need to add a number two alongside him, though. Antonio Gibson is not the guy, especially with Stevenson's um, fumbling issues. You really want to have a second sure-handed option that they'll probably look for in the draft. Um, and then defensively, I think it's more just about they'll probably look for some guys, but still, yeah, I think it's just about getting schematically sound and getting the culture set that Vrabel's going to bring in. But I could see it, depending on how some of these players feel about the outlook of the Patriots over the next couple of seasons. It could be interesting because even though I don't know, I feel like Higgins is the type of guy that wants to be part of a contender as well. Um, but money talks, so will be interesting. Let's see. Talking about wide receivers, let's stay on the wide receiver track. I think the last one that we had was Debo. Debo is also being talked about in
Hmm.
terms of being traded, and he's I don't even know with him because his drop. I think his injuries really hurt him in terms of being able to produce consistently, and I don't know if there's a team they'll really be able to utilize him as well as the 49ers have. And I'm trying to think about like a fit of where he could go. And there's not really one that like sticks out to me. Um, and I don't. Let me check his contract real quick, but I don't think the Niners are going to get that much of a a return for him at all either. It could be in the same kind of. Oh, he has 1 year, so he's on the last year of his deal. Um, and then a bunch of void years. 4 void years. The Niners are going to take 31 in dead cap this year by trading him, if I'm reading this right. But um, overall, the contract is not too much to handle. Um, but yeah, I really don't think there's a guy that, or a team that fits with him.
Hmm.
Like maybe the Jets could kind of use him as a gadget guy because you'll have Garrett, you'll have who do they have? Malachi Corley. I don't know, but you could plug in Debo there and have him more of like the safety valve, the short route type of guy. Um, while you let it'll take pressure off of Garrett Wilson for sure by doing that. Um, man, that's tough. Honestly, I don't see a great fit for him.
Dang. Sorry, I'm testing something out. This trade because you're talking about receivers. I was thinking ahead, but yeah, like just talking about the receivers that are free agents this year. Um, man, it's a wide variety of players that if it was
Yeah,
5, maybe 7 years ago, back in 2018, 19, 20, those early years. You've got guys like Keenan Allen, who I feel like he could go back to Chicago for cheap, and he could be the Jason Witten to a Caleb Williams. If you know what I'm saying. Witten
Uh,
was later in his career. He was the safety blanket for Dak Prescott when he was in the early years of his career. Darius Slayton, a kind of a blip here and there. He's a flash here and there.
yeah,
Uh, DeAndre Hopkins, had this been 5, 6 years ago, he'd be number one on the list easily. Uh, Marquise Hollywood Brown, another guy who hasn't lived up he hasn't lived up to
I think he'll go back
the
to KC.
standards. Yeah, I think he'll be back. I do agree. I think he'll be back in Kansas City because I
He's
feel like
been
a guy
hurt,
like,
right?
yeah, he was hurt quite a bit last year. Stephon Diggs is, fourth on the list as,
Hurt.
his ACL tear he suffered in week 8.
Chris
They're,
Godwin is on here too.
yeah, I mean, Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin, and then to top it off, it's T. Higgins, 26 years old, 6 years in the league. He, uh, he, goodness, what is this? He was one of, what is he? Did they say he was one of 7? He only played 12 games as he was dealing with nagging ankle and hamstring injuries. He tallied 75.9, almost 76 receiving yards a game. Average was ninth best in the NFL among those who played in at least 10 games. And he was one of only 7 players with at least 900 yards receiving and 10 receiving touchdowns this past season. The other 6, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Brian Thomas Jr., Terry McLaurin, and Mike Evans.
Interesting.
What they're saying is Higgins is a plug and play number one receiver for any team who ponies up the money to sign him, should he actually hit the open market. The Bengals are reporting leaning towards using the franchise tag on Higgins for a second year in a row if they are unable to extend him. Good Lord have mercy. Spot Track projected him to earn $30 to $35 million a year in his next contract.
30? I was
30
thinking
to
like
30,
28,
30 to
25,
35
28.
million because the teams that they have him, the best team fits: Chargers, Bengals, Patriots, Raiders, Cardinals, and Steelers. All of those teams, other than the Bengals, of course, are looking
Steelers.
for true number one picks or number one receivers.
Yeah.
Chris Godwin, I would love to see him back in Tampa Bay because I know it probably won't fit well for him. For a guy like if Chris Godwin heard this from me, he is like the Robin to Mike Evans, who's Batman. He's to Mike Evans as like a Batman is to a Robin, or a Robin is to Batman. But Bears, Raiders, Chargers, Buccaneers, Commanders. The big. Those are the team fits. They're thinking 19 to 23 million a year for Godwin.
Hmm.
I don't like this at
I don't think
all.
he's gonna get that.
Oh wait, no, Amari Cooper, 14.8 million to 22.5 million a year. That's
I think
projected.
they're over about. I think they're over selling all these guys right now.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you a little bit. This is CBS Sports as well, so they can overhype a lot of things. Um, but they're thinking Cooper could be a Charger, a Cardinal, Bears, Commanders, or a reunion with the Cowboys. Now, don't get me wrong, I would love that, but I don't know if uh, I don't know if Jerry is willing to try to mend the bridge after trading him away for a fifth round pick.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah. I don't see that happening. It'll be. I mean, there's a bunch of wide receiver needy teams.
Hmm.
So
Absolutely.
some of these guys are gonna get an overpay. Um,
Hmm.
like
It's gonna
like
happen.
I
I
don't
feel
think
like
it'll
it's a,
be any of these 30 plus guys. It'll probably be someone.
the 15 and 11 million guys that are getting like 20 million a year,
Yeah,
like a DeAndre Hopkins. Like I could see the Chiefs trying to bring him back for like a 1 year, 10 million maybe dollar contract, but I could see a team like the Bills or the Colts throw more than that just to get him there long term.
yeah. Like the Commanders are interesting because the Commanders, I think every single wide receiver outside of Terry is a free agent. So I don't know if they're
I do
planning
believe so.
on, I don't know if they're planning on re-signing the guys that they have, which a
Yeah,
lot of
because
those guys had breakout years. Um,
a lot of
or if they're gonna try to go somewhere else.
the guys that are on the top eight that I just listed, Allen's, Slayton, Hollywood, Hopkins, Cooper, and Diggs and Higgins and Godwin. Well, Higgins, they're not on it, but the Commanders are in talks with possibly Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs,
Yeah,
uh, Darius
all the big
Slayton,
names.
like some of the big names receivers. They're there. And
Mhm.
besides, new ownership and a coach that is not gonna back down to an old hack like Jerry Jones, then he'll actually,
Yeah,
they'll actually want to win and actually listen to what the fans want for once. Um, but yeah, no, I feel like we're gonna see a lot of. I feel like before the draft, we're gonna see some dominoes fall. But I really feel like the big free agents are gonna start falling post draft, or they'll start falling now. Like they'll start falling the beginning of March when free agency starts. Like, doesn't it start like after spring break or something?
yeah, very
NFL
soon.
NFL free agency
It's
starts
like
pretty soon.
it's like midway through March around there.
Yeah, because I want to look at all players of all the free agencies because like Diggs was playing under a $22 million price tag,
Yeah,
and and I don't even think that was even close compared to what uh, the highest paid guys are in the league now. Because well, actually, no, he was all positions, all the free agents this year. Diggs was getting
probably the
paid the
top guy.
most.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was the top guy. Khalil Mack was getting paid 19 million a year. Uh, yeah, it was Stephon Diggs, T. Higgins. Higgins was getting paid $21 million on just the
on the tag.
franchise tag
Yeah,
alone. But yeah, like there are a lot of dudes on this. Like if I just want to hop on the free agency mill of the rumors, um, if Dallas wants to be looking offensive line wise, which I feel like they desperately need they need offensive help. Zach Martin just retired. He was chewing up $18 million. Dallas could look at a Cam Robinson who's 29 years old, but his AVA or AAV was 18 million. You could look at a cheaper option, a Morgan Moses or
Morgan
a
Moses is
Jedrick
old, isn't
Wills.
he?
Yeah, hold on. Yeah, Morgan Moses is 33. My bad. Don't pay attention to that. Uh, Patrick McCarry was under the 5 million price tag in Baltimore. Same with Rodney Stan. Well, Rodney Stanley's 31. I think he's also he's thinking about retirement at this point, or I may just be spewing out nonsense right now. Mekhi Becton is a guy that I feel like Dallas needs to look at. Uh, Played guard for the Eagles. Played only he only was getting paid $2,750,000. So if Dallas wants a a guy who's played guard and played it really well, you want to look there first. Like just you want to look at it and see, you know, maybe there's a chance there.
Yeah.
But yeah, going from receivers, I wanna take a look at of course the obvious, the one that was announced I think 2 weeks ago, uh, Miles Garrett wanting out of wanting out of Cleveland. He doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild. He wants to be, he wants to be on a contending team. That to me, just I feel like he has every right to do it. He's been a perennial all defensive team, perennial, defensive player of the year threat. Um, and I think he's still very fresh in his contract extension, I believe.
He's got two
Is
or
he
3 years left.
2 or 3 years left? I think it's in. I'm looking at the. That's nope. I think it's 27.
He's got 2 years left this year and next year.
Yeah. So, uh, yeah, the fall of or the goodness, he's going to be a. He's either going to get paid or he's going to get traded. He's going to play out his contract because the guys on the defensive side that are with him in the same area, Max Crosby and Miles Garrett, those two might be in line for a huge payday very soon. It could be this year, it could be midway through next year, it could be right before the season starts, like the Cowboys decided to do Dak Prescott, which again made zero sense now that I'm looking back at it. But I was trying to do a trade. I was trying to calculate a trade. It's going to cost the Cowboys or any team a ton of money to land a Miles Garrett in your franchise.
Yeah, it's. I don't even know if he will necessarily even need an extension if he gets traded. I don't think that's something that he necessarily needs as a part of like his trade agreement or something.
It just,
I think he's just trying to get out of there. I think
yeah,
he
I don't think he wants.
spent how long
He
he's
just,
been in the league 8 years.
yeah, he wants to get out of there. He wants to get paid, and he wants to win. He wants
Yeah,
to win a
so
championship.
I don't know. And also, they're saying that the Stefanski is saying that they're planning on him being on the roster this next season.
Yeah,
Owner was saying that they're planning on him being on the roster next season. So it'll be a very,
good luck with that.
uh,
That's what I would
yeah.
say.
I don't know if it's going to be messy, but it's going to be a very dramatic
Hmm.
few weeks, month. Because I
Yeah,
think they, I don't think it doesn't matter if they cut him or they get rid of him June 1st.
I
Uh,
mean,
yeah, so if they trade him before June 1st, it will be 36 mil in
oh
dead
Lord.
cap. If they trade him after June 1st, it will only be 14 mil, 14.7
Ooh,
mil in dead
so
cap.
they could be waiting
So yeah,
later.
their plan is likely to wait until June 1st before
I would not be
trading.
su-
I don't.
I would not be surprised if they drafted Abdul Carter and then
Yeah,
the
Abdul
minute
Carter
June
will,
first
might drop honestly
because of his foot injury.
because of the injury. Yeah,
I
so
mean, it's minor for what I've heard, and
they're saying he might need surgery though. That's the thing.
yeah, if it needs surgery and he's gonna miss time, like if he's gonna miss the start of the season, do you really want to risk a pick on a guy who's probably gonna miss all of rookie camp, all of OTAs, all of training camp,
Yeah, it's
and the time you're
it's
gonna
a
see
risk for
him?
sure.
Uh huh. And but yeah, I mean, they could be taking anybody. And you never know. Cleveland could be like, hey, we're drafting our future quarterback now. Okay. You got Deshaun Watson, who is eating up a ton of money just to, you know, take the Browns to the Super Bowl, as I would say, or as Larry the Cable Guy would say, taking the Browns to the Super Bowl. Um, but he's it just doesn't. There's a ton of question marks. There's if is Miles Garrett going to stay? Are they going to dump or cut? Are they going to just eat the dead cap and cut Deshaun Watson? Are they going to try to trade him for a bag of chips? Are they going to just try to offload his salary somewhere? Um, it just there's a lot of question marks for this Cleveland Browns team. Although they have the number one
Yeah.
pick, there's still a ton of question marks that they have to answer before they can think about trading Miles Garrett because it feels like it's just a spinning carousel right now for them. Uh, some other rumors. I mean, just to throw out a few, uh, Matthew Stafford. There's been some reports that they're possibly reconstructing his contract to keep him
Yeah.
in LA.
Seems like
Uh,
he's coming back.
it seems like Stafford will be returning and playing ball for the LA Rams. But how are they going to keep him there? My question from that, if that dude does come to fruition, you're gonna bring him back. What are you going to do in the draft? What are you going to do in free agency? Are you going to go after? Are you going to draft a high end wide receiver because you're getting rid? You've already made it clear that you're trading Cooper Cup away. Are you going to
Yeah,
go
but
after? Are you going to go after one of the high end receivers that's in the market? Which I doubt. I don't think you have the money to do it. Like if you're trying to give him close to 50, if you're trying to restructure Stafford's contract to where he makes 50 million a year, how's that going to help you in the long run to try to get a receiver to come play at LA? You'd have to go
yeah,
after the smaller brands guys like an
uh,
Amari Cooper or something.
I think they gotta commit to getting younger this season. I think that's got to be the
So draft a,
plan.
they're probably draft a Ime Ibuka or if he's there, a Luther
Yeah,
Burden.
some. I mean, they have a later pick, so Ibuka maybe might be there, but that might also be out of there. They're drafting at 26, but
Oh yeah,
I mean
that is a late pick.
they're they did a really they got their defense to be a lot younger this past draft cycle, and they did a
Hmm.
really good job of drafting there. So I think
Jared
this time,
Verse and
um, Fisk.
yeah, and Fisk.
But
Yeah.
yeah, so I think now they got to go on the other side of the ball and get this offense a lot younger. Um, I'm not sure. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to go for a quarterback in late day two, day three, early day
Hmm.
three type things. Go for Dylan Gabriel, a
Quinn Ewers or Jackson
Quinn
Dart.
Ewers, McCord, yeah, Dart, one of those. Dart actually makes a lot of sense to be mentored by Stafford, in my opinion,
Yeah,
just
I
off
agree. And just
vibes.
yeah, just the vibes of he's a gunslinger. He's a playmaker. He's a gamer. Like
Hmm.
he loves the game.
Yeah,
I can say he's not a proven winner because of it being Ole Miss, but he can fill out the stat sheet in terms of passing yards and stuff like that, and completions and touchdowns.
yeah.
Um,
And then
another, I would say another rumor that really caught my attention of just the thought of, uh, whoa, okay, just recycled my, um, just refreshed my page. Um, 2 hours ago, the Packers made a strong offer on the table for the Seattle Seahawks for DK Metcalf. Um, oh wow, Aaron Rodgers does have the ability to do the Rodgers has the ability to do the funniest thing in NFL history. Uh,
Vikings,
because, huh?
Vikings.
Possibly. these are rumors, but like the favorites to land the Jets, Aaron Rodgers, are currently the Giants, the Titans, and the Vikings. I would say if he lands in Tennessee, we will see how it goes. If he lands in Tennessee, if it's before the draft, if it's after the draft, we'll know because based on what Tennessee drafts. If they draft Travis Hunter at one, we're probably going to see Aaron Rodgers land in Tennessee or something like that, maybe. But this is a crazy rumor mill on Twitter or on X. They're saying the Eagles are expected to go all in to get Miles Garrett.
Huh.
It wouldn't surprise
Interesting.
me.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me. I would lose my mind if it happened.
Yeah.
Uh, the same thing with the Raiders are expected to have interest in Russell Wilson and Sam Darnold. Uh, goodness, my
Yeah, it'll be interesting because Sam Darnold's likely gone. Um, I think he's. I. Uh, I don't know how much money he's gonna want, but the Raiders or the Giants. I don't think he goes back to the Jets. It just doesn't make sense for him to go back to the Jets. Um, but Raiders or the Giants seem most likely for him. Um, just to be kind of. I don't know how much money he's gonna want though. That's the thing because I don't really want to. If I'm one of those teams, I'm not trying to pay 40 mil for a guy that's likely going to be a bridge quarterback. He's going to be at best a Jared Goff light, So um, it'll be interesting to see what kind of value commands. Because the Raiders, I don't think want to spend that type of money on it when they're completely restructuring their roster. Giants might be a little more willing just because they have neighbors there. They have some skill positions that are um, worth investing in with a solid quarterback at this stage. But still, it'll be his value is completely up in the air to me. Um, and then on the Rodgers front, um, I could see him going to the Giants. Honestly, just going to be like, oh, let me stay in the same stadium for fun.
and then
Um,
make the Jets regret ever cutting me, but then also
exactly.
torment me as a Cowboys fan knowing that he's in the same division.
Same division again. But and then also you got there's always that chance that they could go to the Vikings because I feel like if they feel like McCarthy isn't 100% ready, they want to bring in a veteran player to have all the wings ready to go. And then Rogers isn't the only guy they can go for in that instance. There's free agents out there um, like Jameis, like um, blanking. I think Tyrod Taylor might be a free agent. He's not a bad option.
I think so too.
Let me check this real quick.
I mean,
Excuse me.
you could be Minnesota and you can franchise tag Sam Darnold. Um,
That's true too.
you could bring
You
in a
put him on the
Russell
tag,
Wilson.
but I don't know if you want to put him on the tag if you're planning on putting McCarthy in at some point this season.
That's
If
true.
the plan
That's true.
if the plan isn't to completely invest in, if they're saying we are completely riding with Darnold this year, then you give him the tag. But
Yeah,
if there's any chance at all, I think that you're saying JJ McCarthy might step up and become our starter for at some point this season, then I wouldn't feel completely comfortable giving him the tag because the tag's what for? It's got to be in the 40s, right?
yeah.
This
I think it's
year,
a lot of money because
yeah,
the
40 mil.
because of the Dak Prescott deal. I feel like it's a ton of
Yeah.
money now.
Yeah. I mean, you
Uh,
got Jacoby Brissett's a free agent. I don't
mhm,
like that fit much. Joe Flacco, I could kind of see. I wouldn't like it, but I could see it.
maybe
Carson Wentz is a free agent. I don't even know how good he is anymore.
he's not.
Uh,
Let's just be honest.
they could bring back Josh Dobbs. He's a free agent. I doubt that happens.
Hmm.
So it's really Heineke's a free agent too. Heineke, I can kind of see, but they really need to find a number two behind McCarthy. That, in my opinion, I would find a veteran that has some kind of experience, proven backup relief capabilities to fill in case McCarthy isn't completely ready. I guess Daniel Jones could still come back. I completely forgot about him.
I mean, you think they're gonna meet? You think he's gonna come back to New York? They just cut him, dude.
Not to the Vikings, I mean.
Oh, the Vikings? Maybe Daniel Jones can be. Hmm. My
I'll just put him
ideal.
as the backup.
I'm looking at you know, looking at some people's opinions, but then uh, yeah, when you're talking about the just the quarterback free agency class, it's not a ton. It's not super high, but it's definitely, there's some good value there for, like, bridging the gap between the old and new, like bringing in a Joe Flacco to start 2 3 games while letting JJ McCarthy build up confidence to then take over the reins. It just I don't know, man. There's a lot of things we'll just have to wait and see, because
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's going to be
There's
really,
there's
really
so
crazy.
many moving parts, so many potential possibilities. There's so much. Like I feel like this is. It won't be the most explosive off season. I think the biggest thing that will happen is probably the Miles Garrett um, situation. What happens with him, but there's going to be, I think, a ton of moves and changes to this landscape um, this
Hmm.
upcoming season because I think there's. I just feel like there's a not a huge shift, but at least some sort of shift that's happening in the NFL now. The Chiefs have lost, and we kind of see a potential new way to structure a roster
Hmm.
with the Eagles and how they're able to be successful. So I could see a lot of different things happening this season, and only we'll find out in about a month how everything looks, and then
Yeah,
another month after that, we'll see how the rookies look.
because free agency kicks off on the 12th of March, a Wednesday.
12th, okay,
Yeah, that's when you'll see a lot of the big names that are free agents go off the
yeah,
board. You may see some trades and stuff like that before the draft. Um, but there's some things. I mean, I want to take a look at this. In 2025, they've got possible, like, the best possible free agent pickups that any team can pick, or that, the best case scenario. I'm trying to see if I can find Dallas and see what their best free agent pickup can be, because it's only going as far as, okay. A Stephon Diggs pickup for Kansas City would be disgusting in my mind, because we
that's
got
crazy.
Rasheed.
There's no way.
There's no way. I mean, but it would be insane. Ooh,
After everything with the Bills,
is he a free agent this year? Mm, I would not be against that. I think Nick Bolton, the linebacker for Kansas City, is a free agent this year.
hmm.
That's what they're saying. Like, free
Hi.
agency prediction. Nick Bolton, who is how old? I don't think he's that old. I think
He's. I mean, this is the end of his rookie contract.
yeah. So he's 24 years old, dude. Unless
Yeah,
he doesn't, unless he doesn't resign, dude, sign me up, man. He's a heat-seeking missile, hard-playing linebacker that could really do a lot of damage for the Cowboys.
he's an
But
interesting. I don't. I don't know how I feel about him as a player. He's just an interesting character to me. He
that's
had
true.
that really
Mhm.
good Super Bowl.
Back in
Uh,
the
I forget.
first of the two,
I think so.
the, the scoop and score that he had.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. Um, yeah. With
he's
that,
been kind of all over the place.
that's true. Yeah. With that, I feel like we might want to go to like our last, or at least the last big rumor that I have that caught
Yeah,
me off guard last night. Uh, it was the rumor that the Cowboys had made an offer to trade up to the number one pick in the draft. Boy, oh boy.
that's crazy.
Um,
It's,
right off the bat, I thought, okay, so who are we giving up? But then also, it's the reality standpoint of me stepping back of like, okay, step back of an NFL fan. What would I do if I don't want to win? Like if I don't want to win a Super Bowl, but I want to stay relevant, what would I do? Oh, let's just put up the fact that we talked to Tennessee for the number one pick. Okay. But if the
it's
Cowboys did end up doing this, they have somebody that they're going after at number one. You could see it could be
I,
Dak Prescott being, there you go. There's the door, buddy. Go to Tennessee. Go rot. Go rot in Tennessee. Go try to win games. We'll see you when we induct you into the Dallas Cowboy Hall of Fame. And they could take a Cam Ward or a Shador Sanders, which I still don't. I,
I,
I don't hate him, but I don't see the production. I don't. I
it,
just don't see the production because he played at a HBCU at Jackson State for 2 years, and then played his final year, or he played at Jackson State for a year, and then spent 2 years in Colorado where it was 3-7, 3-8, 3-9 to just one win away from a playoff berth.
mm,
Um, one or two differences in loss and wins, and they're in the playoff or in the Big 12 championship game with a chance of the playoffs. Um, it just, I don't, I haven't watched enough film on him. It really gives me a lot of question marks on what
I
Shador
feel like he's
Sanders might do.
I feel like his value just kind of dropped as well. Just I guess in the natural course of kind of draft conversations, like some guys just kind of you talk about them too much, and then their draft stock kind of falls a little bit. So I feel like the same thing's kind of happening with Travis, Travis Hunter as well. Um, but I feel like that's happening with Shador. So it'll be. I don't. I honestly don't know how to feel about him either, because I don't know how he'll perform under he's always been with his dad, and so
Hmm.
now that he'll probably be in a situation without his dad, I think it'll be kind of interesting to see how he responds to that, how he just plays through all that stuff. Because I think
Hmm.
because there's always that potential he might be a little his attitude might be a little diva esque, a little that
Hmm.
type of stuff where he kind of wants things his way. Um, Especially when he's been a superstar basically throughout his entire playing career already. So it'll be interesting to see how he kind of. I mean, but I think if it's any type of logo that he can handle on his helmet, I think he can for sure handle that star on his helmet.
Yikes. I mean, yeah, that would be like the ultimate Jerry move as well. Like, trade away Dak, draft the son of a guy that played for you and helped you win a Super Bowl, and then
Yeah,
ride him into superstardom off the field, but on the field it's a whole lot of mid, you know.
yeah.
Or if they're
It's
looking at we're trying to keep Dak Prescott, we're just gonna give up a ton of first rounds for the future, and we're going to take Travis Hunter, who we're going to do the same thing, but that gives Dak possibly another weapon on offense and another good defender on the other end.
Yeah, if they do it, I think it's going to be for Travis Hunter. I feel like that just makes the most sense. Um, because it kind of fits what they need. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
you
agree.
spent I don't think because I don't think you're in a position where you want to move off of Micah. I don't think you're in a position
No.
where you want to move off of um what's his face off of Dak. I just blanked for a second,
Yeah.
um but yeah, I think it's got to be Travis. First of all, I don't really think the rumors gonna turn it into anything. I don't think the Cowboys have nearly enough capital to handle all that. But if it does happen, I think Travis is for sure going to be the guy they go for.
Yeah, because I don't. If they were going to take the number one pick, yeah, it would be Travis Hunter because it doesn't
I can't see any
it
other
makes sense.
choice.
Yeah, I don't see any other choice of why you would trade up to the number one pick to not take the best player available in the draft.
Exactly.
And but yeah, I mean, other than that, it's just a whole lot of rumors and a lot of rumblings and
Yeah,
just
a lot of
I mean,
will they, won't they?
yeah. I want to look at. I do know as of 2 hours ago, the Rams agreed to re-sign or sign Alaric Jackson to a 3-year, $57 million extension.
Is that the O line?
Or,
Am I tripping?
the offensive lineman. Uh, he's
Let's see.
gonna
He's he was decent for him. I remember.
decent. Yeah, I feel like I think that's the start for them
Mm-hmm.
of just what the Rams are planning on doing. Oh
Yeah.
goodness.
How old is he? 26.
Yeah, I think so.
I really think they
Oh my
gotta just
gosh.
make him young,
Sorry.
make that team
Uh,
younger.
You want to make them younger. You need all the young uh, talent.
Yeah. So I mean, they're gonna use guys like Stafford and all of them to um, mentor these young guys. I think getting a tight end to move off of Higby as well, um, and then trying to get. I mean, I think the O line's young in general, but it's just about talent at the O line position. I think they're just like a mediocre O line, to be honest.
Hmm
So just kind of going from there, because Bo Limmer is a young guy that I think they drafted this past season. Avia is also second, third year in the league. I think Havenstein's the oldest dude. Let me check. Yeah, Havenstein's old. He's 32. He's got gray in his hair in this picture. But yeah, I mean, this is a turning point for the Rams for sure in terms of
hmm
they did a lot in terms of getting this defense younger this past season, and then obviously how productive they were this past season also just kind of a testament to how well run this organization is. Because I remember when me and Dillon were talking about the Rams in the preseason, we had no expectations for them. We were like, this team is not going to be good at all. Because I mean, on paper at the time, I honestly probably didn't know half the players on the roster. So I think just the turnaround they've had to get back to the playoffs, to be in a close fought battle with the Eagles in the snow, um, I think they are progressing in the right steps to continue to be competitive for a good amount of time, even whenever Stafford and Cup are off the roster.
Yeah, I hear you, man.
But unless you have anything else, I think we're
I
basically
mean,
wrapped up.
just looking at some of the performers of today's, um, today's combine. They did some of the 40 yard times. I don't think the tight ends and have ran yet,
I
but
think they're tomorrow.
I think they start. I think them and receivers run there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Um, I think same with. Oh no, the DBs ran today.
DB's running today. Yeah.
Yeah, and holy smokes, dude! Maxwell Harrison or Harrison from Kentucky at 5'11", 183, ran a 4.28.
Wow.
And I think the thing that really shocked a lot of people, Nick Emmanwori from South Carolina at 6'3" and an eighth ran a 4.38. Like
I heard about him. I heard
they
he's
were they were lining up. A couple people actually lined up his stats with DK Metcalf's because 6'3", 220 pounds. That's a lot of dude to be moving that fast.
he ran.
Uh,
He also broad jump was 11 and a half feet and a
mhm.
43-inch vertical.
Yeah,
Is what I saw.
he was a hoss. He's a hoss. Um, Jade Barron, the Texas corner, a 4.39, which is if I'm Dallas and you want to just build, you want to have like a contingency plan in case a Trayvon Diggs doesn't end up playing at the beginning of the year. Jade Barron could be a good pickup. A 4.39, 40. Yes, he's 5'10", but I feel like he can be the stick. He's a sticky guy that is going to be a good could be a good pickup. Uh, I saw Malachi Starks he ran a 4.5 40. I hope that
Huh.
doesn't. They need to look as what I saw. The combine can make you a first round, like a guarantee first round, and it can also tank your stats. But I think his straight line speed at 4.5, okay, that's a little down for a safety. But seeing his lateral ability, his ability to cover ground as a safety, his ability to analyze plays or make plays, I think that will change the narrative for a Malachi Starks to be because I think were you a part of the mock draft
Yeah.
with me and Dillon? Like he was drafted late.
Hmm.
I don't. I hope I personally, I don't think the guy drops that far. He's the best. I think he's the best safety in the class. Um, but yeah, there's just a lot of the corners ran today, and yeah, there were a lot of 4.4s or these linebackers. No, these are all these are all DBs. 4.5, 4.1, 4.4, 4.33 from a guy from Tulane. Uh, but yeah, the top 10 the top 10 runs for corners. Maxwell Harrison at 4.28, Darian Porter 4.30. All of these are guys from lower schools. The only like big like power four D1 school that actually made was Jade Barron. Ran the 4.39 and he was tied for sixth.
Huh.
Uh, Defensive
Interesting.
ends. I mean, Mark Mason Graham, Jalen Walker, and Abdul Carter didn't run. Uh, I'm surprised they didn't get the arm length and wingspan of Abdul Carter because they don't have it available right now. But James Pierce, the
Did he not
Tennessee
even
defense,
like measure out at all?
no, it says not available. Arm strength and wingspan. But James Pierce, the Tennessee defensive end, 4.47 at 6'5", 245. That's a hoss, if you ask me, bro. Oh, an
Yeah,
80-inch wingspan, 32-inch
for
arm
sure.
rate. Um, Shamar Stewart, 4.59. Derek Harmon, 4.95. Darius Alexander, 4.95. Uh, yeah, I feel like the surprise of the day was, Fadil Diggs. That's a former Aggie, but Syracuse ran a 4.57.
Hmm.
Maybe he'll catch some eyes. I just don't think he'll be.
Top guy.
Yeah, the fastest time was Ty Robinson. He ran a 4.83. This was for defensive tackles. A 4.83 for Ty Robinson out of Nebraska.
Wow.
Yeah, but
Wow.
yeah, James
How big is
Pierce.
he?
He's Ty
James Pierce read
Robinson.
a fast one. I know that.
Yeah, Ty Robertson, I believe. Let me see if I can find him. 288 at 6'5", 288. That's a big dude.
The 4.8 is pretty good.
483. Yeah, that was that topped all defensive tackles for the edges or for defensive linemen. Edge James Pierce at 447. Fadil Diggs at
That's crazy.
457. Shamar Stewart 459. Uh, yeah, that was pretty much it. The D line edge winners and losers. Alfred Collins in a loaded defensive tackle class. T.J. Sanders was a winner. Shamar Stewart was the big winner because uh, running because he was 281 at the Senior Bowl. And for as
Yeah.
intimidating as those figures were together, or at the edge rusher position, it felt unlikely the A&M product would be able to test to his full potential with that much weight on his frame. He came into the combine looking at a much sleeker 267.
Crazy. Crazy.
Losers, two of the losers from the combine so far, Mason Graham uh, and Jack Sawyer. Because while being six
Yeah.
foot four, 260 is impressive and hints at a three down NFL caliber frame, Sawyer's 31 and 5/8 inch arms will be around the fifth percentile at the edge position since 1999.
31. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah,
Who
I don't
cares?
think
So
linebackers.
what's
When do linebackers run? Do they run the same day as receivers?
linebackers already ran? I think.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, they just didn't show them. The fastest linebacker was Kane Madrano, the UCLA linebacker. He ran a 4.46, which is
Wow.
insane for a linebacker. Jihad Campbell
Yeah, I've never heard
won.
of this guy ever though.
But yeah, I mean, other than that, draft, the fun really starts when the receivers start running tomorrow. Because I've already heard
Yeah.
rumors that Isaiah Bond, the
He's going
former
for it, right?
Texas, he's made it clear that he wants to try to beat Xavier Worthy's record. And I'm like, bro, you gotta run a 4.2 flat if you want to beat his record. 'Cause
Exactly.
it was a 4.21, right? The
He
record's a 4.22 or 4.21.
2-1, I think, because I
So yeah,
think
he got to run a 4.2 flat in order to win.
right.
In order to beat the. That's insane too, by the way.
4-2-1. I think
Yeah,
he
no, it's
might
four two
run.
two. What?
No,
No, no, no. That's
Worthy
wrong.
ran a
That's
4-1.
wrong.
It's 4-2-1.
Yeah, Worthy ran a 4.1. Yeah, 4.21. Uh, there was a. Uh, I do remember when I was younger. This is like a side note as we're closing out. My father told me that uh, a little birdie or a little someone. Well, I wouldn't say little. This guy ended up playing, I think, 10 plus years in the NFL, and then proceeded to play 5 or 6 more years in the Major League Baseball.
Oh wow.
Um, it was rumored that Bo Jackson
Oh
ran a 4.2 flat
yeah,
with
I've heard that.
pads
Yeah.
with pads on.
Uh-huh.
These
I
kids are
don't know.
running 4.21s without pads, with skin tight, you know
Also, the timers
shorts.
back then. I don't know.
Exactly.
Uh,
Um, but just to think of what if a Bo Jackson walk up in his prime prior to dislocating his hip and needing a hip replacement and
yeah.
falling out of football. Imagine if he walked into a combine today, lined up. and took off
Bo
because you can see
Jackson, Bo Jackson's like the Wilt Chamberlain of football to me. He's
exactly.
like,
Yeah, you would think. Yeah, it's like okay, how good? I mean, you could say the same thing for Jim Brown. I mean, Jim
that's
Brown was
true
a man
too.
amongst boys when he was playing
Hmm.
football for the Browns, and there is a a, a group of running backs that I respect the heck out of for walking away from the game before their body shut down. Those few are, well, I mean, Bo Jackson kind of was forced out because of the hip injury, but I feel like he could still go with the hip replacement, but because of it, he stepped away. But there's a class of guys who walked away from the game before the game destroyed them. It's Joe Brown, Barry Sanders, and I think Walter Payton walked away from the game before it got too bad. Well, probably because he already knew that he had a problem with his kidneys and stuff like that. But Barry Sanders getting out of the game before his body shut down was kind of crazy to me because had he stayed, he'd probably be the all-time leading rusher. And that's saying a lot as a Cowboys fan who holds pride in Emmett Smith owning that record.
Well, I guess Walter Payton maybe stayed a season too long when you look at his stats.
Yeah, I think he did too. But yeah, like the Barry
But it
Sanders,
is,
like he retired with 12,000.
yeah.
I think 12,000 career rushing yards. He could have easily kept playing
Barry could have easily kept playing for sure.
and would have broke Walter's record easily.
Because Barry,
And
I think, retired at what 30,
yeah, he could have played till
and
he was like
even
35.
yeah, and when he was 30, he put up 1,500 yards. So
Exactly. Exactly my point. 1,500 rushing yards at the age of 30. He could have easily played another 3, 4, 5 more years in the league, but he walked away from it. He walked away and he knew the game was changing and he got his money and got out.
yep.
That's all I have. I mean, do you have anything else? I don't want to just continue to ramble. I
No,
think, I think we talked about a
I
lot of
think we
things today.
covered a whole lot today. Yeah, a lot of insight, a lot of think tanking, a lot of. We'll see what happens. Honestly, just
Yeah, we'll see. I
I'm
mean,
excited about this free agency and this
I
trade
am too.
cycle before the
I am
draft.
too.
Really,
I'm excited.
a lot of storylines. So, um, but yeah, that'll close it out for today. It was good to go talk football after missing last week. So
Thank you.
until
It was
next
fun,
time,
dude.
yeah,
See ya.
see you.
Well, that was good, man. I mean, I don't want to I think I rambled a little too much, but
No, that was
I
good.
mean,
That was good
we were
stuff.
chatting at least. I mean,
Yeah.
this is, I want to be able to, okay, we good? I guess we are. I guess we're good. We good?
My
Because
yeah,
I don't know. Did you just dip? I was
laptop
like,
was bugging.
I saw. I was like, did he just dip on me, bro? Like that was fast.
No,
But
my bad.
no,
But